Like we don't know you were Jewish was 25 years, Seinfeld? Hi, Jerry, you think we don't know who you are? You think we were watching the show like idiots? Oh, these are five Jewish guy people in the east side of New York. It's about a show about nothing. It is disgusting how sometimes people use anti-Semitism as a way to explain their behavior or the protest of their behavior toward a certain cause or issue. Nobody booed Seinfeld or disturbed his show because he's Jewish. You saw his pictures with the IDF and his statements after October 7. The man, he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He used to take his children to summer camp in the West Bank on land that is stolen according to Israeli and even international law. So he's a piece of shit. That's what it is. You cannot go, well, they hate the Jews. Now they hate us. No, I don't like what you're doing. You as an individual.
It's not collective.
Right, but the context of what we're saying matters too. So I would say that obviously any Jewish individual who does a bad thing should be condemned. But right. If you were in a context of, if you were in the South, in KKK South at one point and started profiling Black individuals who were bad, but you continued to do it, and it's not like you're excusing their individual behavior, but you were surrounded in a way by a culture or something that used it as red meat, who do have nefarious intentions towards innocent African Americans, to simply be mindful of that is out there, and be sensitive to that your words could inadvertently be used to provide, and I'm not saying that you're doing that intentionally, and that's not what's in your heart, and that's not what your intentions are. But for us as a community that's experiencing it and seeing it, to be mindful of that is okay. I mean, not everything that can be said is necessarily relevant and should be said just because it could be something true. Just it's okay to be mindful of the communities around that are going through certain things, and I don't think it compromises your ability to freely express yourself or speak the truth as you see it. Us to engage with you and let you know that this stuff is out there and brewing, and there is a deep-rooted cyclical history of this. Even though in a snapshot in this moment, there's certainly a lot of comfortable Jews doing okay. You know, in the last episode, I was moved by the fact that you told me about, and you've spoken about your grandfather, who was an extremely influential figure in your life, right? My parents grew up on both sides, and they didn't have grandparents, and none of their friends in their community had grandparents. They were all dead. They were all gone. Okay, they were all wiped out. And one of the ways that happened, if you
I do feel for that, and I think those were bad if they were killed by the Nazis. But I didn't have a grandfather either. My father's side, his father died when he was 5 years old, and his mother died when he was 10 years old. So we never saw our grandparents. It doesn't mean anything. But you know what? I think I made a mistake here. When he's trying to say that the atrocities that happened in World War II, but if 20 million Russians died, a lot of Russians don't have no grandparents. If tens of millions of people died in Poland, Czechoslovakia, and all those Eastern European nations, they all don't have no grandparents either. So you cannot put your atrocity or your suffering above everybody else. I don't see the Russian going, we lost 20 million people every day. And all these numbers they throw at you, man, it's questionable, man. To me, it is. I'm sorry I want to say that. I mean, I don't have no proof, but when I saw the lies after October 7th, I kind of suspect there's a lot of fucking lies in World War II now. I don't believe what I hear.
Look at it. Historically, in Germany leading up to the Holocaust and trying to figure out what exactly happened was a lot of propaganda and rhetoric over time. As Jordan Peterson has said, things get bad one small step at a time. And it's true that incrementally with time, building suspicion, creating a sense that Jews are above this and this and this, there's some special class, it can feed into something really, really dangerous, really nasty, really incendiary that I know you don't intend to do. And I know you care a lot about the Jewish people in your life. So making you aware of those things is all I'm trying to do here.
And I think that's totally fair. You know, I think if there's any chip on my shoulder, obviously it's because like you just watched me take on the entire Black community over George Floyd, and people were saying the same stuff. You know, don't talk about the fact that he was a drug dealer. Don't talk about the fact that he had all these arrests, because there's all this history in Black America and all of this stuff and police brutality. And I'm like, guys, The truth is the truth. So it is my personality. And I hope that people acknowledge that, okay, actually, no, for 7 years, she's been going at her own community over BLM. So this is like not as, especially because it's Jewish people that she's doing this. I just don't like bad faith actors. And sometimes those bad faith actors happen to be Jewish. And if you're reading a document and that person's Jewish, or if you're reading into history and you're talking about psychology, and by the way, a lot of, those early psychologists were perverts. That's just a fact, and some of them were Jewish. And maybe for people that makes them uncomfortable, but it's like, guys, just call it out, because actually that dilutes the conspiracy. I think the conspiracy actually thrives when Jewish people defend a pervert. I think that's not a good thing. I think that makes them go, whoa, my God, why are they defending this weird perv? Like, is there some conspiracy? Whereas there's no conspiracy when you're like, yeah, no, that guy's a perv. He has nothing to do with Jewish people. And we're not tribal with perverts and pedophiles. Like, that goes a very long way. Like, Sigmund Freud was defending pedophiles. Right. Like, it's like, let's not defend Sigmund Freud's actions on that just because he's, racially a Galician Jew,
Subjects aside, I think trust from the vehicle that information is coming from is super important, and building that trust and establishing that trust matters. And that's why I think you're getting the backlash, and you are connecting it to what was happening to you during the BLM Blexit campaign, that there's someone that's trying to strip you of your blackness and your legitimacy as a person to comment on these issues, and all you're doing is kind of speaking the truth. And I can see why you're connecting those dots in some sort of broad way, to not see that, or to see that, like, the first reactions to not be sympathetic in some way was just so rattling. And it did change my perspective in that, okay, it's not the right-wing anti-Semites at first I'm really worried about. They're marginal, and the worst ideas of the right, I think you'd agree on this, are not ascendant in society. You don't see Nazi KKK shows on Disney+. We just don't see that. The worst ideas of the left, to me, have been on the ascent from the academy. They're everywhere. Corporate America, children's programming, it's everywhere, the worst ideas of that, and viewing people in groups and hierarchies and group identity, politics and all that stuff. But
yeah, could you give us an example in the corporate America is against Jews and TV? What the fuck? Come on, man. You literally control all media. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Stop this victimhood. This is the problem with the Jewish people. They always want to be the victim at everything. I'm the victim. No, you're not. You are traumatized by what happened to your people in World War II, but you cannot continue to use that as a way to become a victim every time. Sometimes you are the victimizers. You understand? Like in Palestine, that's my issue here is Gaza. Everything else, I don't give a damn what you do. You understand? But I don't see no kid show about the anti-Jewish. The left is racist. He wants to say that the college students are anti-Semite, and that the left and the progressive came out and demonstrated and protested against the genocide. So for them, if you say that a genocide is wrong, that is done by Israeli Jews, then you're anti-Semite. If that is, then the middle finger to you. All right?
After seeing that, the anti-Semitism of the left come out, and then I'm starting to see this new sort of really like troubling thing happening on the far right. And I know like Twitter's an ugly place, but I want to just like talk to you, and because you have such a huge platform and such impact, and I know you want to be consistent, and I appreciate you always being open to the dialogue of it. That's my role here, to try to convey that how that's being perceived.
Yeah, and I know that your intentions are good. Perception, by the way, because I've heard this as
I kind of figured out his role was to come in and soften Candace Owen from going DEFCON on the Jews, because she's been doing a lot of shows with Nazism and this and that, Jewish pervert. So they probably told this guy, listen, dog, whatever your name is, I don't know what his name, I forgot. Go visit Candace and tell her to please. Let's make peace, huh? Let's make peace, Candace. All right, you're right. Just let's make peace.
Well, and I've tried to make people understand it, especially from the UK, because they're saying this too, like the conservative right seems to be kind of changing on Jews. And I had to clarify for them, no, actually, you are seeing a sentiment that's changing against Israel. And the reason for that has got absolutely nothing to do with Jews. Let me tell you, if October 7th happened in Boca Raton, there would not have been a question of unfettered allegiance to what was going on with Jews in America. Israel is a different equation, and that conversation is starting to shift because A, we see that as a foreign country. B, people are starting to call into question a lot of things. Bibi Netanyahu has said that to me, to hear a foreign leader speak about America as if he controls it makes me uncomfortable. And then the third thing is AIPAC, ADL shoving through laws through Congress, John Greenblatt getting caught. You know, if you want to talk about not giving into Jewish conspiracies, John Greenblatt getting caught on the ADL on the hot mic talking about how we got to get rid of TikTok, and then tomorrow it gets passed through Congress isn't good. You know, we want separation. We don't want Israel in any capacity controlling our speech. The anti-Semitism bill was absolutely horrific, and it caused a reaction. That wasn't against Jewish people. That was against a foreign country having influence on American politics. And I think because it's all happening at the same time, it can be hard to dilute that and go, okay, actually, this isn't about Jewish people. They really just don't like what Israel is doing and the impact that AIPAC and ADL is having for specific reasons. And we can disagree on that. But what we should agree on is that actually that's nothing like I'm free speech, more speech. You're going to make an enemy of me if you're caught on a hot mic like Bibi Netanyahu was saying that if you criticize Israel, we're getting laws passed in America. If you criticize Israel, it's going to be a problem in your life. That's gangster talk. Don't care what his religion is. Don't care what he thinks his race is. You got to now get out of American pockets. That's my view on Bibi Netanyahu, which I think a lot of conservative Americans feel as well. Taking a brief break here to inform you guys that according to a recent report, Planned Parenthood continues to rake in billions despite dwindling clients. 200 babies lost precious life.
It's like there's so many different things going on and suffering going on around the world and innocent people and Muslims being slaughtered in Syria by Assad and all these things. And people don't storm the streets. But for some reason, with Israel, people get crazy.